it says we're live.
Funny. We go live and we start laughing. Welcome to the fourth episode of the CelebWorx live series, Yojo Raps, where all our steaks are well done thanks to Blowtorch. Yojo Raps is an inside look into the iconic series of G.I. Joe, a real American hero. I'm Christopher Arsaga.
I'm Nery Lemus. Thanks for joining us on our new inside look where knowing will no longer be half the battle.
For all of the fans out there, if you have any questions or really any questions in general for Michael or us as the show goes on, please post them in the official stream and we'll answer them if and when we decide to. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm excited to bring on this voiceover legend. I've been blessed over the last 5 years of my life to travel around the country with him. If you would have asked me as a 15-year-old that I would work with someone 10 years later that I had bugged for autographs at animation events and mail correspondence growing up, I wouldn't have believed you. Michael Bell was the voice of my childhood. And while we would be here all day if I listed everything that he was in, it was his work on the Rugrats, Smurfs, Transformers, Darkwing Duck, Voltron, and of course the reason that we're here, G.I. Joe, that bonded my love for the field of animation voiceover. Voiceover in cartoons has always been a beloved life guide into my heart through my ears, and in Rugrats he voiced two father figures, in G.I. Joe he voiced a true American hero. He's not only a real-life father figure, but he's also a real-life American hero. He told me once that if I had been his agent earlier in life, he would have been a star. Well, he has always been a star in my eyes, as well as the thousands of people that he's met with me on our adventures. He was one of the first guys to give us a shot. He has given us dozens of clients over the last 5 years, and our company is where we are because of him. We owe a lot of our success to him. Please welcome our friend and legendary client, Michael Bell, to the program.
Yeah, I love it.
Love
it's
it,
like
Mikey.
At Bernie's.
You call me the grandfather. I'm the grandfather, right?
I love it, Mikey. So I'm gonna get. Thank you, Mikey. I'm gonna get it started. You started your career on camera. What was your first role in the business?
Oh my goodness. Wow. The first voiceover role, TV role. My first role in the business was in an indie film done in 16 millimeter in Banning, California. I played a character named Stretch or something like that. I can't even recall. All I know is it became an underground film. Almost kept me out of the business. Called Damaged Goods.
If anybody wants to check it out,
folks,
I'm sure that people can find it out there. And for many of those
we're
who
gonna
don't,
go looking for some bootleg VHS tapes, right?
And for many of those who don't know, you made guest appearances on Get Smart, The Monkees, Mission Impossible, Mannix, Ironside, MASH, Charlie's Angels, The Rockford Files. I can go on and on. But you worked with iconic actors like Raymond Burr, Mary Tyler Moore. Can we talk a little bit about your working on those shows?
Sure. Working on Mary's show, it was interesting. When I did the show, there was talk of me playing, what's his name, Rhoda's husband. And unfortunately, I didn't get it because they said I didn't look Jewish enough because he has to be Jewish. And I became, it's so weird. You don't look Jewish enough. So they said it was too Irish. And I was Rhodey. Oh, stop. It's my wife. She wanted to be on the show. So I became friends with Valerie, and we'd been buddies, rest her soul, for many, many years. And every time we would see each other, she'd go, it's almost my husband. Michael Bell was almost my husband. My boyfriend, who was a fireman. I played a fireman. Get Smart. I went in to read for a minor role, and they said, after I read, and he said, do you ride a motorcycle? I said, yeah, I was raised on a motorcycle. I do wheelies. I've done all that. And they said, okay. And I got the part of the lead, but I had to ride a motorcycle. And I never rode a motorcycle in my life. So I went out and learned to ride a motorcycle on a buddy of mine's motorcycle, and fell off while it was going full speed on a Mako in the valley, and had to report the next day like this. And I said, I fell off the motorcycle. I went through an oil slick. They went, that's okay. We'll get a stuntman to do it for you. do the motorcycling. And I did the whole show like that. Cool. And I played a hippie called Brute, character called Brute. It was cool. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And pretty much it. That's established me as a lead. Up to that point, I was doing featured roles, guest spots, but featured on.
For some of the folks out there,
big lead, yeah.
They probably don't know that your wife was also an actress, and you guys kind of had some parallel roles where you guys kind of crossed, different paths during your roles. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, she did Three's Company. I didn't know her that well when she did Three's Company, and then I guested on Three's Company. And then when we got then she did Get Smart, and I didn't know her at that point, and I did Get Smart. A lot of us were working alternate shows. I did a local show, the Loman and Barkley show, and then she had seen me around, and she said, "Oh, I want to meet him and work with him." And I had already left the show, and she didn't know that, and she got on the show. So we kept missing each other. And then when we finally got married, we built a theater together, and we wound up doing the Incredible Hulk. I played Bruce Banner, and she played the Hulkus, or whatever the heck it was called, the She-Hulk. And she went up
She-Hulk,
yeah. She-Hulk, and she's done Scooby-Doo, and I was doing Scooby-Doo, and she's done Smurfs, and she played Scooby's mother, and I did this, and I was doing the Smurfs, and she did the Smurf stuff. So yeah, our careers have crossed paths. Yeah.
At what point did you figure out, you know what, I want to go more into the animation side instead of the on-camera work?
Yeah. Sure.
So at what point did you decide that?
Oh, animation? Well, I was doing FBI, and I was doing a scene out with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., and we were running, and I was at a gun, and I was always just either an officer or a FBI guy or a CIA or a bad guy. But in this case, I was FBI, and I was running, I had a weapon, and I had it faced in front of me, and the director said, "Okay, cut." And I said, he said, "Don't move, nobody move." And I didn't move. He said, "All right, Mike, where's your hands?" I said, "They're my hands out front." He said, "I have my gun." And he said, "And where's your left hand?" I said, it's on my head." And he said, "Why?" I said, because the wind is blowing and my hair is going back and I'm losing it. And he said, "You can't do that." And I said, "Well, then I'm not going to do this anymore. I need to be hidden." So I wound up getting voiceovers and doing commercials. And I did a very famous commercial for Parquet called Butter, Parquet, Butter. And that sort of got things rolling, and I did a bunch of other stuff. And before you know it, I got into voice animation and over at Hanna-Barbera, and through a friend of mine, Joni Gerber, who's now passed, who was a sensational talent. And she got me involved, and the rest is minor history, I guess.
Did you have any difficulties transitioning from on camera to voiceover? Like, or were you just like, "Oh, this is just in the same vein, but different"?
No, because at that time, as I mentioned, Joni Gerber, she was a close friend, and she said, "Why continue to do on camera? It's fun, but you're not going to be having the kind of career you want as much as you're guest starring. You can do so much more in voiceover because you do all these characters." So she took me to a session with Mel Blanc. Noel Blanc was doing the session, his son, and at one point he said, "Why don't you step in, Mike?" Not knowing me, and I said, "Okay." Oh my God, okay. Mel Blanc and me. Oh my God. And I went, and Mel was so sweet, and he had to play. He said, "Dad, you're an East Indian, and Mike, you're the guy buying rugs from him." And it was some whatever commercial. And I said, "Okay." And when Mel did it, his son said, No, Dad, you're East Indian. You're doing an Indian. You're doing an American Indian. I want you to do an East Indian." So he said, "Oh, okay, Boychik." And he went ahead and he didn't do it. And then he said, "Dad, Mike, do you do an East Indian?" And I said, "Yeah." I was so glad I was wearing a diaper because I was so nervous. And I said, "Yeah, sure. Is that okay, Mel?" And he said, Go, Boychik, go." And I went, "Okay." So I did the East Indian. Oh, very great. Go, and I want to tell you right now that this rug is the best rug I had ever in the stock. I want you to buy this rug. And Mel did his thing. He said, "So can I buy, blah, blah?" And I said, "Oh, my goodness, yes," went to all thing like that. And I did it. And I went home and I said, I just beat out Mel Blanc for a role. The Mel Blanc. I did something he can't do, and he did everything. Here's a man who's a brilliant actor, singer, voice. I went, okay, that's it. Great. I want to do this. This is what I want to do.
Wow.
So
At what
so
point,
cool.
and Mike, you were the leading man in almost every 80s and 90s show for animation. At what point did you transition from being the new kid in town to being the dominant force in voiceover?
boy, you say dominant force. I don't know if I was a dominant force particularly. I just worked a lot. I don't know if I don't know if a person is aware of that kind of thing. You just work. You get called in. It was, I guess, it's what we refer to as the golden era. It's so different now. But then,
And that's why you don't represent yourself. That's the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. It's exactly what it is. I don't. And they brought you in and they said, okay, do this. So you got behind the mic and you were prepared and you worked at it. And then you met greats. You met the greats in the business that you grew up with, people that I used to listen to on the radio when I was a kid. Let's Pretend and all those wonderful shows as a kid. And now I'm working with them in Super Friends. And this guy played Archie in the original radio show. And wow, this guy's Batman, and he's I've heard him all the time. And this guy was Ellery Queen, and whoa, and eventually that became me. And there's all these young people, and years later going, wow, this is the guy that was, and I became that old cocker. But it was, it's a transition, it's an arc. So, hey, I'm glad it's like I had it. It was wonderful.
There's a story that Oppie, speaking of, you're just talking about Mel, there's a story that Oppie likes to tell, and I'm sure people would like to hear it again from your perspective, but the Mel Blanc speed buggy story is kind of a fun one.
Oh,
can you
goodness.
tell me that story?
Yeah. Mel pours everything. Mel is like an English actor. He pours it all out, and when he's doing something, and he really gets involved. It's not as if he's playing off the top of his head. Rest his soul, this magnificent man. And we were doing Speed Buggy, and I was a young hero. What do we do now, Speed Buggy? Oh, Speed, with that voice over there. And we had bad guys each week. And the first bad guy for the first season, or maybe the second or third bad guy, was Alan Oppenheimer. And I knew that Mel had a tendency when he did that wonderful character he used to do for the Jack Benny show, the car, he would go, what do we do? That's great. And go like that. And he would wet your whole shoulder if you're sitting next to him. I mean, literally, you were sopping. You needed a blow dryer to sit there because you could get pneumonia. That's how much he stood on you. And all in a row. So there's a chair, and all the actors in a row. And I'm always next to Mel because he always talks to me. So this was the bad guy first bad guy we had come in. It was Alan Oppenheimer. And Alan came in and I said, Al, I want you to meet Mel Blanc. And he said, oh my God. Oh, Mel, hi. Well, this is such a pleasure. Oh, what a treat. And Mel goes, hi, nice to meet you, Alan. I said, Al, why don't you sit next to Mel since a lot of your stuff is with him since you're the heavy in the show? And he said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. So he sat next to Mel, and I have the seat next to Alan, and then, of course, everybody else is to the left of me. And then we do the thing, and then it starts, and then Mel goes, and goes right back to the script. And I see Alan go, and Mel doesn't even look at him. And I can see Alan out of the corner of my eye. And I just stay on the script as if I have no idea what's going on. And Al goes, and I'm not looking at him because I want to catch his eye. And I don't want to ask him to trade seats. I don't want to trade seats with him. So then he starts again. And now he's leaning like this, a little bit in my direction. At which point Mel does his, okay, let's go, kids. And I see Tiny Al is now leaning all the way over, and we're all on these long seats, and all of our seats are doing this. All the seats are going over. They're all going like this, and all of us like this. And I had disappeared during the break because I knew Alan was going to corner me. So as soon as Gordon Hunt was a lovely director who's passed, one of the directors said, okay, guys, we're going to take a 5-10 minute break where we get this together. I said, okay, I got to go. And I ran out and I ran outside the building and stayed outside the building instead of going to the bathroom because I knew Alan was looking for me. And as soon as the time came back, I came and I got in my seat and Alan's just literally seething. It was so good. By the end of the session, he could have sold that Nell signed it, and he could have probably made enough money to buy Johnny Depp's island because he had Nell spit all over.
Oh my God, that's amazing! I love that story. It's funny because Oppie tells it from a different perspective, so it's good hearing. You can hear both. It's awesome.
Okay.
You mentioned
I was
earlier.
there.
I know, but it's great. I love it. You mentioned earlier Super Friends, and I'm sure that everybody loves Super Friends.
Yeah.
And you were Zahn and Gleek. You were the monkey also. Tell us about a little bit about Super Friends. Like, did they approach you to do Zahn, and then they were like, "Oh, can you do the Gleek also?" Or
it's funny. They just assigned you. He's Mike, you're Zan, and this is what we're trying to. I don't think I even read for it. I mean, they just trusted the fact that I could do it because I've been doing, all these young guys. And finally, okay, fine, that's great. And they said, and you're going to be Gleek the Blue Monkey. And I thought, okay, he doesn't say anything. He just chatters. So I went, this is pre-Frank Welker. So
wow.
I got to do dogs, and cats, and I mean, BJ at one point, Warder came in and had to do a narwhal for something. She said, "What the heck is a narwhal?" I said, "Just go," which is the sound of a whale. She did that. They went, "Okay."
We should talk a little bit about the reason why many of our fans are watching. You were the star of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. You voiced Duke, Zaymot, Major Blood, Lift Ticket, Clutch, Scrap Iron, Blowtorch, and Toll Booth. If I kept going, we're going to be here forever. How were you cast for the series?
And those are my attorneys. How what?
I said, how were you cast for the series?
How what?
How were you cast for the series?
They had me read for Joe. There was all the guys. It was like a repertory company. It was just amazing, all the talent that was out there. And they had me read for it, and they said, okay. And I really don't have the kind of pipes for Duke. I didn't think. To me, Duke was Great American Hero, all that big stuff. They gave it to me anyway, and there was some wonderful pipes out there. But I thought, well, great. He's a good character for me. And then the next thing you know, you have 3 voices you have to give them, or in those days, for one price. You get paid for one voice and you have to give them the other 2. So they assigned voices to all of us. And as we went along, I had to remember what I had because I couldn't sound. I would have been so embarrassed. He said, "You know what that sounds like, Mike? It sounds like Lift Ticket, Mike." Oh, okay. Could you sound a little bit different? No one ever asked me that. I just knew that I could do all these dialects. I can get my voice in this area. I'll get my voice up here, get more of my voice back here if I had to, just sort of keep a voice in that area. Whatever those characters had to do. But you did 3. So if I didn't get one of my main characters in the thing, which is fine with me, then I would be able to bring in that other character, that subsidiary character, that secondary character. So it wasn't, cross-posting. And it was, you just give it to you. They gave it to you, you did it. And sometimes if you did it, they'd say, where we go, I don't know. Why don't you try it? And it's embarrassing when he gives it to a girl. That's when it gets embarrassing.
Was there ever a case where you wanted to...
Sue, you do it. You got more balls than Mike.
Greg Berger shared his story where he picked his choices for the characters that he had, which was Spirit and Firefly. Was there any time where Wally Burr said, "Hey, Mike, you can pick a couple of these characters off these scripts that are on the table," or that didn't happen for you?
Yeah, in the beginning when you audition, yeah, and all the characters have a certain look about them. So I pick characters with the largest puffy places.
That's awesome. When you got Duke, did you realize that he was like the main guy? And when you realized that, did you have like some sort of inspiration that you drew from to be the character or to voice the character?
Not really. I knew you had to lower my voice a little bit, and I had been in the service, so I knew the attitude of the guys who were in charge. Because obviously, being a kid from Brooklyn in the service, and being somewhat insulated against that kind of life, suddenly being thrown into that life, and having to take orders from people who I didn't think should give orders over a period of time. And getting
Yeah.
to know guys who really were Green Berets, and how they talked. And I had a buddy who was a Green Beret. And that attitude, I thought, okay, yeah, that's moves ahead. And as you know, nobody died on the show, not in our version.
not in your universe. Yeah, when you played actually Major Blood also, who's also a huge like villain. I mean, everybody, when I was a kid, I had Major Blood was one of my favorite characters that I played with. But when you actually voiced them and you were in the booth, did you prefer to play the bad guy, the Cobras, or did you prefer to play the Joes? Like, did you have a preference, or you're like, this is just paycheck, I don't care?
Boy, that tells me a lot about you, Chris, that your favorite was the villain, was the bad. What does that tell me about you, Chris?
Don't tell anybody.
Hmm? Yeah. Is that, now I know. Now I know who you wanted to do in Scream. Who you wanted to play. Okay. I think it's more fun. It's easier to play the heroes because you just do that through line. It's sort
Right.
of, it shouldn't be that easy, but they don't seem to have another agenda because they're not written that way. They may be today. Now today
Right.
it's totally different. But then it's you're the good guy, you're the bad guy, and the bad guy was so much fun to play. It's always more fun to play the bad guy. It's much more fun to play Captain Hook than it would be to play Peter Pan. As much as I'd like to
Yeah,
be Peter
that's true.
Pan today.
You could.
You had an all-star cast. I mean, ideally, that some of the best in the business at that time. Can you walk us through one of the Wally Burr infamous sessions?
Well, I'm not sure it was a GI Joe session. It might have been an Inhumanoids session. I think I remember clearly, or a maybe possibly a Transformers session. It all seems to run together because we were working so continually. I just remember a session we were all packed in the room. It was a small room. It was wow. I just remember it was really hot, and there were about maybe 14 or 15 of us, and I was growing a mushroom plant on my chest. Um, and I remember BJ Ward was in the room, so it must have been GI Joe and Nery Mac. And I remember we were there for 8 hours at that time. We broke down before we stopped being there for so long. And I think Frank said, "Hey guys, I got to leave. I have another session." And we've been there for 6 hours or something. And we were so tired. And I said, I got my wallet. And I said, "This is a picture of my family. Would you take it to my wife? Would you please tell her I'm here? And that Wally Burr has me. I'm located in Burbank. Please, please." And everybody broke up. It was really fun. It was really good. And then, of course, later on in sessions, at one point, Mary Mack said, not Mary Mack, sorry, BJ Ward said, "Gee, I don't understand. Scarlett is not in as much. I haven't been doing as much." I said, "That's because your doll isn't selling." I had no idea I was correct. I had no idea that no one was buying her. I didn't know everything was predicated on whether your action was selling or not. I had not a clue.
You worked with some other infamous characters from the beloved series. Chris Latta is someone that many of the fans, love. What was your experience with him?
Chris, hot talent. I mean, he literally, if you could see a persona, it was red. And he came in and he always was flaming because I think he had sessions the night before where he was doing stand up. And he's always doing stand up. And he's always busy. He's always on top of it. And I couldn't stand next to him in the mic because he was a spitter. Because he would sweat, not spit, but he would sweat. And when he talked, he'd go, yeah, blah, and like stuff would sweep off of him. And I'd get wet. And I always worked at the end of the room. And I still felt sweat. He was always sweating. But that voice, I mean, you could hear that voice. You could literally, I think at one point I should have worn Depends because that voice really broke out of me. It really made me want to pee. I mean, really powerful sound. As Cobra. Yeah, he was quite a force. And he had, I hope his kids aren't watching this, he had a brown tooth that used to scare me. I don't know what it was, but it looked like a big brown wooden tooth in there. It might have been a real tooth that just died in his mouth. I don't know. It's very possible. But yes, he was something.
Mike, in the movie.
If I was a tooth, I wouldn't want one in Chris's mouth.
Mike, in the movie, Duke originally he dies, and then they altered it because everybody got mad because they don't want him to die, and they put him in a coma. What happened? What happened when you read the script initially? Were you just like, whoa? Were you like blown away that they actually killed him off?
I got a feeling that I was the actor they liked to kill. They did that to Prowl. They killed me as Prowl. And when they wanted to kill me as Duke, and I looked and I said, well, who's the guy who played my brother, the famous actor who played my brother in G.I. Joe?
Don
His
Johnson?
daughter's quite famous now.
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson, yeah. Right, Don Johnson. And I looked at him and I said, you're killing me. Why are you? Kill Don Johnson. Nobody knows who he is in animation. Who cares about Don Johnson? People love Duke. Don't kill me. Kill Don Johnson. The hell is that? Yeah. And then one of the things came up was that money came up. Money wasn't as important as respect. Money was an indication of respect. So you wanted a favored nations. Well, there was no favored nations. It was Don Johnson. And they said, you'll get X amount of dollars, which was okay. And then I said, and Don Johnson is getting what? Nobody knows who he is, his character. He's my brother. And they said, well, that's really not, for us to tell you. I said, well, he's got to make more than me. So bring me up there. I don't have to make as much as Don Johnson, but make it better, sweeten the pot. And they said, well, no. And I said, well, fine, then get somebody else to play Duke. And they said, wow. We will. I said, I didn't have to do that. I mean, I'm sorry. It's a sign of respect is really what it is. And then I got a call back from the agent and said, they met the deal that they were planning to give me. And I felt better about it. I never got to meet Don Johnson. And then, of course, when it came, no, we work by ourselves. We all work by ourselves, pretty much. As I recall, for the movie anyway, not for the series, but I think for the movie, I really didn't see too much,
Well, they brought you back not too long ago to play Duke's father opposite Jason Marsden. What was that like? Did you get to work with Jason in the studio, or was that also separate?
Oh, that was in the studio. Jenny McSwain directed us. It was a great show. It was really well written. It was really fun to do. And BJ played my wife, obviously. And I had directed Jason as Peter Pan in the series, in the Fox series. They did 80 shows. And I directed him in the Fox series, and he played Peter. Debbie Berry and played Tinkerbell. What a cast. What an amazing cast that was. But yes, and I loved Jason, and we became friends, obviously. And then he came back as me, as young me. Not as tall, but still young me. And it was a good show. It It was a really good show, really good
Yeah.
show. And they didn't decided not to carry it for some odd reason. I got to play Duke again, and it was a comedy show,
Community.
Community, yeah.
situation comedy. I got to do the voice of Duke. Yeah, I do the voice of Duke. They called my
What was
agent
the-
on that and said, by this time I was in my 70s. And they called my agent and said, we'd like Mike to play Duke. It's a funny show. The guy goes into a coma, and then he comes. It's Duke is there, etc. But does he sound the same? So my agent called me, and she said they want to know if you sound the same. I said, well, have the director call me, and I'll let you know. So the director called me. The phone rang immediately, and I picked up the phone and went, "Hello," and he said, "Yeah, can I speak to Michael Bell, please?" I went, "Oh yeah, hang on, Grandpa." And I got on the phone and went, "Hello? Yes, hello?" And the voice went, "Yeah, is Michael Bell there?" I can think it's Michael Bell. Well, Michael Bell, Duke. I said, "Yeah, that's me. What do you want?" And there was this silence. He's gonna hang up. So I went, "Okay, it's me, Yo Joe. Knowing is half the battle. Okay?" And he went, "Okay, good. All right, fine. I'll call you later."
Oh, that's great.
It's a terrific story, Mikey. People travel hundreds of miles to see you at shows around the country. Not right now, at least, but they were. They were traveling
No.
far distances to see you. Why do you think the series was such a prevalent and long-lasting success?
Now, because so many, they tell me, and I would not have known otherwise. So many of my fans, not all, but so many of my fans were latchkey kids because it was Saturday morning. And many of them, I think it's even might even been during the week, because I really never watched the shows during those periods of time. They came home and they watched the show. We were their friends. We were their family, if not first family, then secondary family. And they associated with us. They derived that kind of parental thing, because we did commercials too about be good, don't hit your sister, and don't do anything dirty to her. You know, we did all these great commercials. And then we were good guys, and they were the bad guys. And of course, there were these really sick kids like Chris who liked the bad guys. So we were all associated with them in some strange way. So they connected with us, and we became family to them. So years later, it's like, I knew you. I was raised with you. I mean, I knew you since I was a kid. I get all excited. My kid now listens to you. I make my kid listen to you. We love those shows. They don't make them the way they used to. I don't know if that's the fact, but that's what they say. I've had guys come up to me and say, I joined the Army because of you. I became a Marine because of you. I became a cop because of you. I've killed people in your name. Thanks.
Do you have any words of advice for the G.I. Joe fans out there, Mike?
You're gonna follow it up with that question. Oh my God.
Well, you say words of advice. Words of advice. Yes. Don't dress up in your sister's clothes and use my name and yell, Yo, Joe. Words of advice. About what? About life? About getting into voiceover?
Getting into voiceover.
In terms of words, I'm not sure I can give anybody
Oh my
in
God.
voiceover. Okay, yes. If you're interested in doing that, you really should start out as an actor. You should learn your craft, because it's not just a matter of a voice. It's not a matter of saying, oh, well, I can sound like this. You know, I can do this. I can do this voice over here. You know, maybe I can sound like, somebody from GI. I can sound like somebody from Scooby. I go, Scoob, I can do that character. I can do Scrappy. It's not enough. You have to have an acting background. You have to know what that character is going to say and do. You have to literally fill that page. Otherwise, it's just words on paper. There are some wonderful comics who were marvelous impressionists that could never work as actors because they did great impressions, but when it wasn't within the dialogue they manufactured as that character, they couldn't do it because they couldn't act it. A couple were great. Gorshin, fabulous. I mean, some others were really sensational, but most of them could not do that. Great impressionists, but they couldn't act. Unlike Frank Welker, wonderful actor, wonderful impressionist. He could bring it together. A lot of people couldn't do it. A lot of act people couldn't do it. But what you do is, I would suggest they join an improv group in their local theater, get into local theater, learn the craft, and then start developing characters and start working on not just characters, but animal voices are very important. We've all sound like dogs and chipmunks and squirrels and monkeys, and I did a whole movie as 30 chimpanzees, I think, called Rocket to the Moon or something. And that's all because I studied it. I learned my craft.
That's so awesome. So your career has taken you into a bunch of different avenues that people probably wouldn't even expect. And I know, obviously, I know all the stories, so I'm going to ask you the questions so you can tell the stories to these people that I think are interesting. But I was blown away. I'm a huge Laker fan, and you told me that you got to work with LeBron. So can you tell everybody like what it was like working with LeBron James?
Yeah, I got a call from somebody who said, a producer who said, I'd love to meet with you. I hear you're a wonderful director, which was nice to hear. Apparently, I had worked with his wife on something who was an amateur, and a couple of amateurs who were putting together a pilot for a series. And I try to work them around. They weren't actors particularly, but they wanted to do this. So I directed them. And he heard the tape, and he said, wow, you made my wife sound good. She doesn't have any background, but you made her sound good. I have somebody who doesn't have any background in acting, but he has a series that we're trying to get going called The Lebrons, and his name is Lebron James. We'd love you to consider directing him and the rest of the actors. And I said, LeBron James, I don't know anything about rap. And he went, what? I said, I don't know rappers. I don't listen to rap music. I don't know rappers. And he went, LeBron James is a basketball player, famous basketball player. I went, second thing I don't know anything about. He said, macrame, ballet, female impersonators. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. But I don't know anything about basketball. So I'm sorry. And he said, well, you could still work with him. And I said, well, I'm sure I can. That shouldn't be a problem. And the show was mostly black. There were a couple of Europeans, white kids in it, pink kids in it, but mostly black, which is great because I knew some of the actors, fabulous actors, and I had to work with LeBron. So we went to they had me go to, I think it was West Florida, to the American Airlines Stadium where they were playing. And I said, I'd like to watch the game. I'd like to see who he is and what he does, just out of curiosity. So they put me in the thing or other where the reporters sit. And I watched the game, didn't tell me who he was. And I got to tell you, I was fascinated because I'd seen some basketball on television. My mother was a big fan of sports. She always used to say they switch babies in the hospital because I didn't know dick about sports. And had she known at that point, she passed this prior to that, but had she known that I met LeBron James. So I'm watching LeBron and I'm watching them play, and all of a sudden I see this guy lope out, and he's dropping the ball. He's dropping it. And he just walks up. He just touched the ball and it went. I said, who's that guy? They said, that's LeBron's.
Yeah.
I said, whoa. If he could act like that. Oh my God. Yeah. So we have a little booth out in there. It's a little booth, a little tiny booth. There was hardly any room for me in there. And I needed a separation from everybody else. I had to go out and shop, and I had to go out and buy stuff to get a separator. I got a drummer's glass and everything so that we would be separated. He's introduced to me. I said, hey man, how do you do? And he meets me, blah, blah, blah. And we sit down and he starts to go into it. And as he's starting to read, I suddenly hear in this little booth. I went, whoa, come on, man. And he said, that curl your eyelashes? I said, yeah, that curl. Oh my God, open the door. Gee, are you crazy? And I mean, I should have bottled it. I could sell it today. LeBron farts. $500 a bottle. He just would have a wonderful time. And then we're getting into it. And at one point he asked to cry. I said, now you got to cry on this. He said, say what? I said, you got to cry. I said, and take your hat. He had that hat, thing with the thing. I said, take it off. That's my hat, man. I don't care if it's your hat. It's getting in the way of the mic, and it affects the mic. This is my world. This is my world. And he said,
I love
all
it.
right. He said, all right. He's sitting down and he does his thing. And I said, you have to cry. It doesn't sound real. And he did it. And he dug in. And I said, I don't see tears coming down, but I see them watering up. He finished the scene. And I look out and I see the producers out there going, yeah,
That's
great.
cool.
Now he's got to do rap. Got to do a rap. And I said, okay, I played this several times, LeBron, I played this several times, and I'm doing this thing. I know what it sounds like. I did it a couple of times, so I know what you have to do. He said, I'm not going to do that. I ain't going to do that. I ain't going to do that, man. I said, what are you talking about? You're a black dude. Black dudes do rap. You can do rap. You can do rap. He said, I ain't going to do it. And I said, okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to get the word out, probably take an ad in the trades, that an old white Jew did rap and LeBron James couldn't. How does that sound? And he went, all right, man. Fine. I'll do it. He went ahead and he did it. Wasn't great. It was good. I think they replaced him with some famous rapper. I think they replaced him with somebody. I forgot. A really wonderful sound. But just that song. But he did. He really worked at it. He really tried. It was really great. He really worked at it. And he was a pleasure to work with. And I got to tell you, when they had the big party for the premiere of the show, it was one of these huge clubs on Sunset Boulevard. I took my wife, my daughter, who's a huge sports fan, said, I got to go. I got to be there. And we went in. It was packed. It was wall to wall. A lot of people and a lot of women with low-cut dresses that 2 inches above importance. I mean, it was just packed with all these basketball players and everything. Noisy. Boom, 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 boom. My wife was going, oh my God, I have such a headache. I said, well, I just want to introduce Ashley to LeBron. So LeBron's is off in the corner with some very famous people. And I walked by. I said, LeBron's, you want to meet my daughter? Just say hello. He said, you got it. I walked over. He said, how you doing, Miss Ashley? And his hand was like a computer. And her hand was like a kitten. It just disappeared. It right up to her elbow. You know, she's tiny anyway. And he went, how you doing, Miss? She went, how do you do it? Oh my God, that was gold. And I said, okay, now we have to go because my eardrums had burst. I can't listen to this anymore. And we finally left. And that was my big LeBron story. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I love that. So I recall you actually voiced Raziel in Soul Reaver, which is one of my favorite video games of all time. I love that game. And I recall you saying, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I recall you saying that you actually attempted to play the game at one point.
Yeah, I did. Amy Hennig, who was the producer, and Gordon Hunt was the director. Amy Hennig gave me the game, and she gave me a PlayStation, and I had never. I'm not a big game player. I do other things. It just wasn't my interest. So I went into the back room upstairs, and I put it up to get it, and I started to work with it. And eventually, my daughter came in, and she said, "What are you doing, Dad?" I said, "I'm trying to get my character on this cliff. He's got to go up this cliff, and it's taking me a little time." She said, "You've been here for 4 hours." I said, "This is just the beginning. I haven't seen any. I wanted to see the movie. I wanted to see the animation. I just have this character jumping around trying to get up the freaking cliff. 4 hours? It's just the beginning of the game." She said, "I know, Dad, but you've been here. Okay, 4 hours of my life gone." I wrapped it up, put the whole thing, and I had this gal I knew who lived in the boonies out there in Fraser Park. Her son was a big fan of games. They didn't have any bucks, and I said, "Gift." I called her. I said, "Here." She came over and I said, "Here's a PlayStation, and here is Raziel. Here's Defiance of Cain. Here's Cain. It's yours. Be my guest." And of course, I'm sure a wonderful time. And I'd never seen it until it came out on YouTube. When it was on YouTube, I finally got to see what it was I sounded like. In fact, I called Simon Templeton a couple of weeks ago about something. We were talking about something. I wanted to get him on board on something. What a sweetie he is. And he said it's just amazing. And even he, and he hasn't, I don't think he's attended any conventions at that point. But even he said, wow, that's something, the way it's lived on. And Tony Jay, who was in it, I directed him in Peter Pan.
Tony J, an incredible, iconic character actor.
It seems like you directed everybody but Nery and I in Peter
Yeah.
Pan.
Well, you thought Peter Pan was a wash basin in a whorehouse. So what would you know?
So, Chris, I think I'm going to answer some of the fan questions if we can. The first fan question is Raymond Lister. How did he like his Star Trek experiences, and is he friends with any of the Trekkie actors? And two, what does he think of Duke's relationship with Scarlett, and where does he think Duke's relationship with Scarlett ended up?
Well, Star Trek, we didn't become friends, but when we see each other at conventions, they always come over and they go, "Here's the grappler," which is really cool. Everybody was really sweet in Star Trek. That was a big thing for me. That was a really important show for me to do. I've always wanted to do that show, the original as well, and to get an opportunity to play that character, because I read for Roddenberry, and for my friend who directed the show, Corey Allen, who I knew. I had studied with him years ago as an actor, and I was in a play that he had directed, and he said, "I think you'd be right for this." And I went in, and I read for Q, oddly enough, and then Gene Roddenberry said, could you go out? Could you look at this role and come back in? And I said, sure. I went out. I came back in, and I started to read Groppler, and I could see the direction. Groppler had long white hair, and he looked. So I did him in this. I used a voiceover. He said, no, use your own voice. I said, my voice is very young for this guy. I mean, I sound like important parts of my body haven't dropped yet. Are you sure you want me to sound like me? And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, okay, fine. So I did my voice, and he said, okay, I like it. Let's do it. And he said, do you remember me, Mike? And I said, Gene Roddenberry asked me if I remember him. I thought, was I drunk? Did I do something to him at a party? No, I don't remember. I said, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Why? He said, you remember Along Came Bronson with Michael Parks? I went, oh, wow. And you're still going to hire me? And he laughed. He said, yeah. And I said, because I had a big fight with Michael Parks on the show. I was a guest, and he was the star. And he was acting up, and I turned on him, and I said, you schmuck. And I just berated him in front of the cast. I said, when you're ready to work, come and talk to me. I'm a pro. You're a jerk. And I walked off. And I thought, I'll never work for these people again. And Roddenberry said, no, absolutely. Wow. Love to have you. And I wound up doing Star Trek, just, whatever. Now, as far as Duke and Scarlett is concerned, they lived together for about 12 years. She had 3 of his children, and we gave them away because they all look like Major Blood.
Michael Rezer says, how did you get the role of High Tide in Rescue Bots? Open audition, and did they approach you for the role?
I think in Hollywood, there's only one way to get a role. I slept with the director. Jenny McSwain is the director, and she's an old friend. And years ago, I cast, interesting enough, I was asked, I was working for Ruby Spears at the time, and they wanted me to cast Superman, the original animated series. And I was looking for a Lois Lane. I wasn't in the show. I was looking for Lois Lane. And I looked at a couple of actresses, and I knew that Jenny McSwain, even though she was a casting director, happened to be an actress at Screen Actors Guild, and she just had an attitude. She had that kind of crusty, tough, Lois Lane, tough. And I said, would you want to read for this thing? She said, sure, Mikey. She did, and she was so right. And they said, you were on the nose, you got her. Then they wound up getting her to direct the show, so she cast me as Lex Luthor. So it was very, nepotistic, you might say. But there you go. That was pretty much it.
Tony Wilmouth says, what was the biggest difference between voiceover work then and now?
Well, there was more of it for those of us that aren't stars to begin with, that aren't big celebrities. I think what has happened is, in terms of doing the characters, we have to speak a little slower when we talk, because if you talk too fast, they couldn't animate that fast. So, well, what do we do now, Captain? As opposed to, well, what do we do now, Captain? which moves it along. And the approach is different. I mean, the acting still has to be there, but the approach is different. It's much more naturalistic now. Even when you're doing a kid show, hey, what do we do, Barney? Hey, what's happening, Barney? You don't go, hey, what's happening, Barney? You had to slow down in those days because they couldn't animate that fast. So now, of course, it's boom. It's as naturalistic as you can be, but it's pretty much close.
Do you have any memories working with the late Don Messick, Casey Kasem, or Ken Sansom? Michael Reser's asking.
Absolutely, Michael. Absolutely. Don Messick, Casey Kasem, Ken Sansom. Whoa, Ken Sansom. Casey, great, oh, golly, what do we do now? He's just a great sound. Don Messick doing stuff on the side. Don always liked to play, and he did sounds of, he did a sound of a mandolin in an Italian restaurant, which always amazed me. That he did do something like that. It was just so great and funny. Just a quiet little guy. You go, whatever sound it was. It sounded like it was coming from his nose. It was just amazing. And Ken Sampson, I used to say to him, and he was as straight as a board, but he'd always do something kind of fey. And he did his Barbara Stanwyck, which all of you guys out there are much too young to remember. He'd do his Barbara Stanwyck impression. Of course, I was raised in the movies, and she was a great actress. And he'd always do this Barbara Stanwyck impression and have me rolling on the floor. He was such an interesting guy, really interesting, low key, and he just would drop the funny stuff, and you would be on the floor. No, these guys were great. These guys are great. Yeah, I was lucky. Olin Soule, the oldest Batman in the world, and didn't sound like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Olin Soule was a famous radio actor, jumping from one show to another, and I'm there with Olin Soule. And
Wow.
Herb Ellis, oh my God, from Dragnet, and now I'm with Herb Ellis, who became a good friend, who recently passed, a good friend. Yeah, I was lucky, very lucky kid.
You were talented, Mike. Alexandra Lemus, we're very close.
Who is that, Nery?
It's my sister. Which quality do you think is most important for actors to have?
Resilience. Beyond talent. I mean, talent is important, and it's very important to be resilient. It's very important not to take anybody else's opinion seriously. You need to listen, obviously, and weigh whether you think that they're possibly right or wrong. But I think you have to be resilient. If you intend to do anything in this business, you got to keep on pushing. You got to keep on climbing. It's like the old Jack and the Beanstalk. You can't stop midway and say. And I have friends who did. I went to the High School of Performing Arts, and I've had several very close friends who I remain friends with. Two of which were women who were so brilliant on stage and gave it up to get married because they were afraid of the fight. It's really important. There's so many no's. The no's should make you strong. It's not as if, well, what do they know? But they should make you strong. And rather than, what is it? Instead of being a couch, it should be a springboard. Don't lie down. You're not down and out. A failure is someone who stays down. You're gonna get down. You're gonna get knocked down, and as soon as that, you get up again, and you work at it. You train. You continue to train. Educate yourself. Continue to train. There are famous actors now who continue to study, still go to classes, and you watch them and say, "Whoa, what talent!" And they're in class. So I think that's really important, and to be really resilient. Keep on learning. Keep on learning, and see why the great ones are great. Why are the great ones great? What is it they do that makes them great? And I think if you're smart, you're good, by the way. And I worked with Alex. He's good. He knows what he's doing. He's got a wonderful sound. Just has to keep at it. Yeah. And if you're doing on camera, interested in doing on camera work, work on those abs, man.
I think that your piece of advice is very timely, Mike. So thank you so much.
Is it?
Yes, it's very timely. So we're approaching sort of near the end of the show, but we wanted to add a new segment. And essentially, Mike, you've got so many characters that are beloved. If I name a few characters, can you do what you do best?
Well, let me see if I can remember. God,
Okay.
memory-wise,
Zahn
yeah, we'll
and
give it a
Gleek.
shot. You know.
Let's give it a shot. Zan and Gleek from Super Friends.
Wonder Twin powers activate. Form of snot. I was always water.
Lance and Sven and Voltron.
My wife says I do that when I'm sleeping. What is it?
I said Lance and Sven in Voltron.
Lance is over here. Oh, we're in trouble. What are we going to do now? Oh, wow. That Lotar. I'd like to kick him right in the knish. And Sven. Well, I just looked at the script, and it seems to me that, like a couple of other characters that Michael Bell plays, he's going to die. So I'm going to die. These people love to kill me, don't they?
Prowl and Transformers.
Oh, Prowl is over here. Prowl is what's it? Clint Eastwood. You know, he talks with his jaw breaking. Everything's over here. You do a close up of Clint Eastwood acting, you see this. A lot of that soft kind of thing. So these guys are wrong, aren't they? Well, you bucket of crap. Whatever.
Amazing. Swoop and Transformers.
Me Swoop! Me sound like Grouchy! What the fuck?
All-Star Seaworthy and the Snorks.
The Snorks. Oh, what do we do now, Octi? Eat the hell out of me. That's my Frank Welker story. I told you that Frank Welker, when they wanted me to speak
tell
underwater.
us. I know the story.
Yeah, I'm trying to drink. They said, Gordon, I said, we want you to drink underwater. I go, I took water. Okay. Water with, God, I'm choking with coffee and I can't get it. And he says, Frank, why don't you do your character? Because he's talking underwater. And Frank goes, well, this is what we're going to happen. I went, why didn't you tell me how to do that, Frank? He said, because it was so much fun watching you drown.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so perfect. The next one, Quacker Jack and Darkwing Duck.
Yes.
It's game time!
Oh, that's so cool.
Chaz Finster, Grandpa Boris, and Drew Pickles and Rugrats.
Well, one of the reasons that your mother is dead, Chucky, is because I smothered her. She was fooling around with Reptar, and I can't have that. I just can't. So I love you, sweetheart, but give it a rest. Grandpa Boris, first of all, I want to tell you something. Although I'm old and I come from the old country, I'm very woke. So just don't get it through your head that I don't know what I'm doing. Now give me my pants.
And then Drew Pickles, of course.
Well, that's Drew. Drew is over here. Drew is me. You know, he's somebody who you would think would kill his wife. She's so mean. But no, that's old Drew. And Angelica, get over here. Give me Cynthia the doll. There, that's how I feel. Now get out.
Raziel in Legacy of Kain.
Raziel, they cast me into the underground. And I'm down here with, it appears, a red-headed man who has a big fat belly and a red tie and a hat that says Make America Great Again. It's time for me to kill.
And of course, let's end it off with Duke and G.I. Joe.
Duke. Okay. Yo, Joe. Listen to me, guys. Heads up, everybody. We're going in. All right, Scarlett. Get some clothes on. I said we're going in.
Hey, wait, we got to do Major Blood too for me.
Of course.
Major Blood. Right here, right? Here's the thing we're talking about. Here's right for me. I like to say something as Major Blood. I'm sick and tired of other people playing me. The next person who gets it, I'm sure is going to be wrong for it. Not me. I'm right. Why don't they hire me? I'm evil. I'm bad. I could be a producer. I could be a head of a studio. I could be Weinstein. What's wrong with these people?
Mike, I thank you so much for coming on. I mean, you've highlighted everything we know.
Wow.
how great you can be, and we want to talk about things to plug, which is of course your daughter Ashley Bell just recently released a movie called Love and Bananas. It's an animal advocacy film for elephants. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. She has a film that she wrote, produced, and directed. Beautiful film called Love and Bananas. It's a documentary. It was on Stars, and I'm not sure it's there anymore, but you can get it on Netflix. You can order it from Netflix, and I believe on iTunes as well. I'm sure other things as well. And it's a huge hit, and it's about a 70-year-old partially blind elephant that is terribly abused at a trekking camp where all elephants are terribly abused. Trekking is when people ride elephants, in, whether it's the United States or in India or in Thailand, etc. And she traveled there and did this documentary, and it was about the rescue of the elephant. She was part of the rescue, and they take the elephant 500 miles to a sanctuary, and we get to see that elephant become an elephant again. And the reviews were just extraordinary from all media. They said it was just an amazing film. It was recommended, became eligible for an Academy Award. And it has raised all kinds of educational programs. She's raised a tremendous amount of money. And what has happened is a lot of trekking camps have closed in Thailand because of Ashley's film, Love and Bananas. So if you have kids can watch it. It's a couple of hairy moments. But for the most part, kids that have seen it have just said it's changed their life. They were talking about kids who are 8, 12, 13, said it's changed their lives. Not realizing that elephants that you ride, or elephants in entertainment, or elephants in zoos, or elephants used to paint pictures, or all that crap, are terribly abused, often die during abuse as babies to perform for humans. So there's that. And she has been in a number of films. If you don't know who Ashley Bell is, she starred originally in The Last Exorcism when she was 21. She's 30 now. 31, I think. And she starred in The Last Exorcism as soon as she got out of college. Then she did Last Exorcism 2 and Carnage Park, very scary film. And she has a film that hasn't come out yet called The Swerve. And we're hoping this COVID thing is over soon so she can go back to work and support her old dad. Boy, I look like Ted Turner. What is that? Where is Jane Fonda? Jane? Come here, honey. Sit on my lap. I look just like Ted Turner, don't I?
You look terrific, Mike.
Yeah,
Mike,
thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
now
you.
we're approaching the end of
Mike.
our show, but before we take off, Chris wants to remind you of a few things.
Yes, everybody. This upcoming next Thursday, a week from today, there will be a new CelebWorx Live Weekly Inside look into G.I. Joe, Yo-Joe Raps. We are going to be announcing our special guest now for next week, and that will be none other than Miss Mary McDonald Lewis, Lady J, Mary Mac.
Woo!
A ton of fun. Love her to death, and she's an amazing person. And also to remind you, this upcoming Sunday, also at 5 o'clock, we have our regular CelebWorx Live show, where our special guest is going to be none other than Mr. Mike Milrick from Stockton Con Events, and he's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with all the mics on here. But anyways, once again, this is Christopher. This is Christopher Arsaga.
Ask Mary about the day she faced a guy. I was with her when she faced a guy who had pulled a gun on us. Seriously.
Okay.
At an event.
We will.
At an animal
we will, for sure. See, now everybody has to tune in next week.
Tune in next week.
That's a lead into a big story, I'm sure. All right, guys. So once again, I'm
All of us were
Christopher
putting our
Arsaga.
pants, and she said, "Put it away." All of us standing around were pooping our pants, and she said, "Put that gun away." The guy's got a gun in it. You got to ask her.
I will for sure. I'll make sure we ask her. All right, everybody. Once again, this is Christopher Arsaga, and you can follow me at the Real Arsaga. And in the words of Mr. Andy Dufresne, one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption, remember, Red, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
And this has been Nery Lemus. You can follow me at the Real Nery Lemus on Instagram. Just leaving you with a quick saying that means a universal hello, goodbye, thanks for stopping, and stay safe always. Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Yo, Joe. Yo, Joe.